Lied by the evidence, and I think we have a video to show just that.
Whoever has this job, are they going to convict Donald Trump?
Look, that is the number one issue. I'm the candidate in the race who has the experience with Donald Trump. We sued the Trump administration over 100 times.
I sued Trump over 100 times and brought a case against the Trump Foundation and held him accountable.
Holding Trump accountable for the Trump Foundation.
From exposing illegal behavior by the Trump Foundation.
I do have a lot of experience with the former president. I led the New York State Attorney General's work and investigation.
They said there was zero political targeting. Then Russell Fry pressed play, and suddenly the entire narrative collapsed in real time. Like and subscribe now, because this is the clip they can't explain away.
Defend Donald Trump and perpetuate the absolute whitewashing that the Republicans have doubled, tripled, quadrupled down on in fealty to Donald Trump, that somehow these were political prosecutions and investigations. And the only evidence of that is that the defendant said it. That's all you have. You have no actual evidence of any politicization or weaponization.
Well, Mr.
If you look,
sir,
I reclaim my time. If you look at the actual indictments, if you look at the Mar-a-Lago search warrant, there is not an objective judge, prosecutor, or anyone else who understands criminal law who would say there's not enough evidence to charge or to go forward with a search warrant. And all you are doing is trying to create a monarchy for Donald Trump. And that's what you have been doing by yielding all of your power to him for the last 6 weeks.
The gentleman's time has expired. I now recognize the gentleman from South Carolina.
Let me just write the last word.
The gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
I thank the gentleman for yielding, and I think it was discussed earlier that this was not about politics and that people campaigning for district attorneys were not campaigning on going after the former president, now current president. But that, of course, is belied by the evidence, and I think we have a video to show just that.
The Trump administration over 100 times.
I sued Trump over 100 times and brought a case against the Trump Foundation and held him accountable.
Holding Trump accountable for the Trump Foundation.
From exposing illegal behavior by the Trump Foundation.
I do have a lot of experience with the former president. I led the New York State Attorney General's work and investigation and successful litigation against him and his family for their misconduct with the Trump Foundation. And also we had a number of litigations, more than 100 involving the Trump administration. I led the team that held Trump and his children accountable for their misconduct with the Trump Foundation. I oversaw the work which sued his administration more than 100 times. I led the Attorney General's work on the Trump Foundation case where we held Trump and his family accountable. When I was at the Attorney General's office, I led our work on the Trump Foundation matter. I also led the team that did the Trump Foundation case, and I've seen him up front and seen the lawlessness that he can do. Started out as a civil rights lawyer, then became a federal prosecutor, ultimately was the #2 lawyer in the New York State Attorney General's office, leading the charge against the racist policies of the Trump administration. I believe we have to hold him accountable. I've litigated with him, and so I'm prepared to go where the facts take me once I see them and hold him accountable. Being a rich, old white man has allowed you to evade accountability in Manhattan. That includes Trump and his children, right? We held him accountable in the Trump Foundation case. My office did the Trump University case. So I've seen a pattern of lawlessness over 20 years. And so I'm inclined to believe all I see in the public domain and know that and believe that there's a path forward there to make a case.
So I think we go back to the basic premise of the bill, is that you have a prosecutor in New York who's not worried about crime in New York, Manhattan. He is worried about going after the former president of the United States. Why? Because it earns him political points in a jurisdiction that did not vote for Donald Trump. And so they elected this guy to go after him despite the fact that there are other crimes that you could be going after, but resources are dedicated. And so to sit here today and say that this has not been about politics, this is about fairness in the system, It's total BS to believe that that is actually the case because he said it a million times on television. He campaigned on it, and that is the purpose, one of the huge purposes of this bill, is to remove that from a fairness perspective, that a jury in a federal system, that a different system that is not rigged in a state court can go and have a fair trial. The presumption of innocence is on a criminal defendant, and if we do this for ambassadors, if we do this for sitting presidents right now, why would we not extend that to somebody when they are targeting a former president or vice president?
Will the gentleman yield
for political points?
a question?
And with that, no, I yield.
You just watched a moment that politicians try very hard to avoid. Their own words played back to them. It started with a confident claim. No politics, no targeting, no bias. Just law and order. That's what Dan Goldman argued. Clean, direct, absolute. But then Russell Fry did something simple. He brought receipts. He played video. And that's where everything changed. Because suddenly you weren't hearing opinions anymore. You were hearing candidates campaigning, talking about going after Donald Trump. Not quietly, not indirectly, openly, repeatedly. Hold him accountable. Investigate him. Go after him. Over and over again. And here's why that matters. Because the argument wasn't just about guilt or innocence. It was about intent. Were these cases purely legal, or were they politically motivated from the start? Fry's point is simple. If you campaign on prosecuting someone before reviewing the full evidence, then people are going to question the neutrality of the process. That's the issue. Perception of fairness. Because the justice system doesn't just have to be fair, it has to look fair. And when prosecutors publicly signal a target, that perception gets complicated, fast. Now, step back. What Fry did here wasn't complicated. He didn't give a long speech, he didn't interrupt, he didn't escalate. He just pressed play and let the footage speak. That's what made it effective. Because arguments can be debated, but video is harder to spin. And once those clips were out there, the conversation changed. From "this isn't political" to "how do you explain that?" That's the shift. Now, does that prove everything? No. But it raises questions, serious ones, about how cases start, how decisions are framed, and how politics and prosecution can overlap. That's why this moment matters, because it forces a deeper question. Where is the line between accountability and political targeting? And more importantly, who decides where that line is?